Step into a quiet, forgotten orchard in the English countryside in the mid-1600s. The air is cool and smells of wet earth and ripe fruit. You hear nothing but the gentle rustle of wind through the heavy leaves and the distant, slow song of a bird. You see an apple detach from a high branch and fall to the ground with a soft thud. There is no one around to notice, except for a young man sitting alone under a tree. He is quiet. His eyes are sharp with curiosity, and his mind is somewhere far beyond this little garden. This young man is Isaac Newton. Today, the world remembers him as a legendary scientist, the father of modern physics, and a genius whose intellect changed the course of human history. But in the beginning, his story was not made of great formulas and academic fame. It was a story built on quiet struggle and a profound sense of loneliness. Isaac was born in the small village of Woolsthorpe. He never knew his father, who had passed away before Isaac was born. When he was just 3 years old, his mother left him with his grandmother to start a new life with a new husband. Imagine the silent pain of a little boy who feels left behind by the people who should have protected him. This early sense of isolation made him turn inward. He did not talk much. He did not run and play games with the other children in the village. Instead, he spent his time alone with his thoughts. Instead of playing, the young Isaac worked with his hands. He built complex mechanical toys, little windmills that could run by themselves, and water clocks that measured time in the dark. He watched the world with a patient, steady gaze. When he looked at a machine, he did not just see wood and metal. He saw the hidden rules that made it move. When he was sent away to the University of Cambridge, the world suddenly opened up. Yet, even there, he did not fit in easily. The teachers wanted him to study ancient books that he found boring and outdated. He was much more interested in the new ideas of the universe. He wanted to understand why the planets moved and what kept the stars in the sky. It was during a difficult time in his early 20s that his quiet life changed. A great plague arrived in the country, and the university was forced to close. Isaac had to leave his studies and return to his childhood home. He was isolated once again, far from the libraries, far from the famous thinkers, and alone with his mind. But it was in this very isolation that his mind found true freedom. While he was sitting in that quiet orchard, watching the apples fall, a simple question formed in his mind. Why do things always fall straight to the ground? and not sideways or up? This single question was the spark that would ignite a revolution in human thought. He did not know that this period of loneliness was the greatest gift the universe could have given him. When Isaac Newton returned to his studies at Cambridge, he brought with him a mind that saw the universe as a giant, beautifully constructed machine. He did not look at the sky and see chaos. He saw order. He realized that the same invisible rule that made an apple fall to the earth also kept the moon circling around our planet. But understanding this order required immense courage and discipline. Isaac was not a man who wanted attention. He preferred to work in total silence, hidden in his dark room, carrying out experiments with light and glass. He discovered that white light is actually made of all the colors of the rainbow. To prove this, he let a ray of sunlight pass through a small hole in his window, hit a glass prism, and spread out on the wall. He was the first person to understand the simple, beautiful truth about light and color. But sharing his thoughts with the world was a source of deep anxiety for him. When he published his first thoughts, other professors did not understand him. They argued with him, made jokes about his work, and told him he was wrong. Isaac was hurt by this criticism. He did not like the noise of the public debate. He decided to lock his work away and promised never to share his ideas again. For many years, he stayed in his room, speaking to almost no one, working alone. He became obsessed with how the universe worked. He realized that to explain his ideas, he had to invent an entirely new kind of mathematics. This new math was calculus. Imagine the incredible mental focus needed to build a new language of numbers just to explain the motion of the planets. But his greatest transformation did not come from his work in the quiet laboratory. It came when a friend, the famous astronomer Edmund Halley, came to visit him. Halley was struggling to understand the shape of the orbits of the planets. He asked Isaac for help, and Isaac immediately showed him the mathematical proof he had kept hidden for years. Halley was amazed. He saw that the shy, quiet man had solved the greatest mystery of the universe. Halley encouraged him to write it all down in a book. Isaac took a deep breath, faced his fears of criticism, and spent months in a state of deep concentration. He wrote his masterpiece, the Principia. In this book, he laid down the 3 simple laws of motion that govern every moving object in our world. He was no longer just an isolated young man from the country. He was the man who had unlocked the mechanical rules of the cosmos. Even though he reached the top of the academic world, Isaac Newton was still a human being who struggled with his own personality. He was often involved in difficult fights with other scientists about who had discovered what first. He took these arguments very seriously, and they sometimes brought him deep emotional pain and sadness. He spent his later years in London working in a very important position as the head of the mint, making sure the country's money was safe and honest. He lived a life of great dignity and wealth, but he was still a man who preferred the silence of his study to the loud parties of the city. Toward the end of his life, he looked back at his long and complex journey and said something very beautiful and touching. He said that he felt like a little boy playing on the seashore, finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than usual, while the great ocean of truth lay undiscovered before him. This thought brings us to the most important lesson of Isaac Newton's life. His story teaches us that true wisdom does not begin when we think we know everything. True wisdom begins when we realize how small we are in the face of the universe's great mysteries. He showed us that the most complicated problems can be solved with simple observation, endless patience, and a humble heart. As we reach the final moments of this journey, let us look back at some of the most beautiful expressions used in the story. Learning these phrases will help make your English sound more natural and engaging. Here are 5 key expressions to expand your vocabulary. 1. Turn inward, meaning to focus on one's own thoughts and feelings rather than on the outside world. Example: when he feels overwhelmed by work, he tends to turn inward and read a book. 2. Left behind, meaning to be abandoned or ignored while others move forward or away. Example: she felt left behind when her friends moved to another city for college. 3. Carry out, meaning to perform or complete a task or experiment. Example: the scientists will carry out the tests tomorrow morning. 4. Keep hidden, meaning to keep something secret or out of sight. Example: he decided to keep his painting hidden until it was perfectly finished. 5 degrees. Lay down, meaning to establish or create a set of rules, principles, or laws. Example: the team's leader will lay down the new rules for the project. Take a moment as this story comes to a close to think about your own path. How can you bring more curiosity into your everyday life? How can you stay humble when you learn something new? Goodbye for now.